In my quest to find people who can speak on what it's like to deal with Asian racism, I ran into a YouTuber called Randall Fields. Now, you may not know his name outright, but he actually runs a YouTube channel called Laowai in China. And it discusses Asian racism, specifically how Asian women view men of other races. And he spoke to me for a couple minutes about what it's like to live in China. He currently lives in China right now. To date Asian women. He went into great detail about all these things. And if you want to check it out, stay tuned.
Hmm? Granddad never mentioned that there were men as dark as this. Wow, look at that nose. He's just like a pig. He's a monster! Hut!
What made me decide to make a YouTube channel was because I think like in 2006 to 2009, I was writing a blog. The blog is like gone now, but I was writing a blog and basically I was writing, but no one was looking at it. No one was seeing the stuff. Like, what happens to black people in China? No one knows, like, what's going on when black people move to Asia or something like this. And basically, I can safely say I'm the first person to do it. Like maybe okay, there was a guy that wrote a blog like a while ago, and he got some like looks and stuff like that. But I was basically the first person that became popular at doing it. And on YouTube, I think I was like kind of like the second. There was one guy who's doing this, and he stopped making videos in like 2009 or whatever. And I decided, look, I need to continue the legacy. People don't know what's going on in China when you're a black person, when you move, because there's a difference. There's a big difference from being black in China than being white in China. You get treated differently. Your experiences will be different. Um, so I decided, yo, let's just make a YouTube videos, and let's tell people what's going on here. So that's the answer to that first question. Basically, when I got arrested when I was 17, um, cops put me over for some shit I didn't do, guns to my head. Then I became disillusioned with America. I still went to the university and everything. I was in group homes and, abandoned as a child. I didn't have a very, uh, I guess, clear picture or positive image of what America was. So it was just like, damn, this is where I was born. Can I make it? Like, can something good happen to me for once? And I just said I need to start all over again. I want to get out of here. I want to leave this country because all the experiences that I had they were not good. Most of the experiences that I had, and they tell you in America um, that you just work hard and you got the American dream and you can do right and things good will happen to you, but it never really happened. Like, I was looking for a job in America when I was before the university. I had a job. Then they moved me to another group home, so I didn't have a job. So all I did was like hang out and smoke weed and drink and just get into trouble. And it was like, this is not for me. So when I went to university, uh, my plan basically, by the time I hit like junior, I was a junior university. I decided, yo, I gotta leave. I gotta get out of here. And then opportunity was presented to me by the Peace Corps, which I didn't take. But there was another opportunity that was presented to me, and I was like, listen, I gotta get out of here. I gotta start a new life because what is the probability that I will be successful as a black person between the age of like 17 and 30 that I won't be in prison or something for dumb shit. So it's the probability is so high that you go to prison for a black male. You know what I mean? We go to prison at astronomically more rates than white folks do. And it's because of the condition that we are raised in. It's not because we have a propensity for violence. It's because if you put us in an environment, in an environment that's not conducive to education and to making our lives better, what else are you going to do? It's like The Pros in 1984, if you read that by George Orwell. So that's why I decided to move to China. Well, it's very different from white people. I remember when I first came to Shenyang, this people, you walk on the street and people just look at you like you're some kind of animal or something, and they laugh and all this stuff. And I decided, like, before I came to China, that whatever happens, happens. Like, I didn't know that all this racist stuff was going to happen to me because there wasn't any literature on black people moving to China. There was literature on Americans or this people moving to China, but that was in a white perspective. And this was by a dude named Peter Hessler. He's a writer for the New York Times. His wife is Asian. Um, his experience and my experience, completely different. Completely different. Because when they see him as, they put him on a pedestal. He has his problems, but for the most part, he's put on a pedestal. For me, they kind of like look down upon you because you are black, because of the history of blacks in America, because of the friction between blacks and Asians in America. So there's so much, like, I guess, like, there's a bit of animosity sometimes between, like, when I come here and it's like you try to, like, connect with Chinese people. But, like, you have Chinese people are willing to change. Like for the most part, it's just kind of like ignorance. So a lot of times they're willing to change, and you can help change them by just being a good example and not getting into trouble. So, I mean, I guess I can say that's what I want to say about that. Okay, so here's some examples. Like, one example was when um, I went to the university to learn from, like, I just want to know how it is, like, to be a teacher in China. So I was in Shenyang at the time, and I went to this Australian dude's class, and nobody was sitting next to me. Like, nobody was sitting next to me. And then this girl, she came in late during the period, and the only seat that was available was the one next to me. And then she started crying and going crazy, and she didn't want to sit next to me. And then she ran out the class all hysterical. And then the Australian teacher told me, oh, it's because um, she didn't want to turn black or something. Like, she didn't want her skin to be black like mine. Because they have a very distorted notion of what black is. Like, if you look at the Chinese language, like, anything that's black in the language of Chinese is negative. Like, 黑是说, 黑是水, which means, like, black mafia. You know what I mean? Anything with hay in it is basically, as a concept and as an idea, is negative, is bad. Anything with white is clean and pure. So I think society intentionally labels black people as black when we are not really black. If you look at us, we are brown people. But the propaganda labels, I say black because I'm used to saying it, but if you really think about it, we're brown people. but it's just easier to name us black, and it puts us in our place. Like, we are black, and black means violence. No matter if the whole race was good, if the whole color spectrum of our people were, if we did all of these things, that word, black, is going to keep you and pigeonhole you in a corner where you cannot succeed, where it's going to be harder for you to succeed because the word has basically raped you. You know, it's turned you into something that you're not. You know what I mean? We got to spend all this time doing campaigns and self-empowerment of how we are beautiful and how we are great and how we are cool because of that one word, because of black. You are black. And whites purposely put themselves as white. They are white, right? And white means good, which all is good in the world. And that was done purposely to put us down as a people, right? And to separate and put us into categories, you know. So, yeah. That's kind of a hard question. I would think is in the United States. I feel that Asian people, they have something because crime happens in America, and crime usually happens for the most part in poor areas. For the most part, okay, and those poor areas, you know, it's bad. It's horrible to say, but it happens in black communities because these poor areas are purposely put there. You know, and I have a whole thing about it of how like because we used to have the black family unit used to be all good in the 1950s, and then something happened in the 1960s when after feminism, right, where it separated the black man from the family, and now you have 72% of black households without a father, and I think that's a big problem. So when people see that, like especially Asians, they put their spots, like when they make these businesses, when they create these businesses, they put them in the poorest parts because white people won't accept them, one, or they just don't have enough money to open up a shop in these, uh, these predominantly white areas. So they open them up in the hood. And in the hood, of course, you're going to have problems. You're going to have beef. You're going to have all kinds of trouble. Same way if you have a Chinese spot in a white neighborhood, that's a poor white neighborhood, you're going to have problems. So, but mostly, Asians put their spots in poor black neighborhoods. And that is the problem. That's what happens. Like, then they have this weird notion that most of us are gangbangers or evil or doing these horrible things to people when it's not true at all. You know what I mean? If you were to go back to the Black Renaissance and you can put a Chinese restaurant in the Black Renaissance, you know, when we were riding high, you know, from the 1920s and 30s, where the black family unit was together, you wouldn't have this same kind of thinking. But in these days, you know, you got Chicago, you got a Chinese restaurant in Chicago, people getting shot up every day. So Chinese people gonna think, oh, these kind of people, that's what they do. So I think it's more racism in America from Asians than it is in China. Like China, they say dumb shit. They say a lot of dumb stuff, and they say ignorant shit. You do have racist people in China, but for the most part, it's due to like this ignorance. You know, they just don't know stuff. Like there's no black people in America, like stuff like this. So it's much more. I don't even want to call it innocent, but that's the only word I could think of right now. But in America, it's more ingrained in the country. I don't know. I don't think they recognize it until it happens to them. You know, like I told you, I did in some of my videos. there was an instance with some guy called the Kai Gurley where he got shot by a dude named Peter Leong, and it was unwarranted. The guy did not have, the black Akai girl did not have any weapons on him. He was just chilling in the stairway. He got shot accidentally by this dude, this police officer named Peter Leong. All over the Chinese community in America, they were like, set this dude free, Peter Leong, because why you let white people get free when they shoot black people, but Chinese people can't get free? It's racism. So it was just like, it was so illogical. Because it was like, what? What are you saying? Just because a white dude got away with killing a black dude, that means you should get away with it? Because it would be racism if you didn't get away with it? You know, and it was just kind of like, it was weird. You know, and then there was some other thing about a Chinese dude in France. Same thing happened to him. He got shot by French dudes, right? And he got killed. And then all of a sudden, they say, oh no, this guy, the police who shot him needs justice. He needs to be convicted. So which way is it? It's like, it's hypocritical. You know what I mean? So I think they don't recognize it until it happens to them. They think that they are not minority. You know, I think many, at least Chinese, think that they are not a minority until stuff start happening to them. And their people start getting killed. Then they're like, okay, now we're in the minority. You know, just like in South Africa, you know, you had segregation, you had apartheid, and Chinese wasn't rallying around that stuff. It was blacks getting killed and fighting for the rights. It was Nelson Mandela doing all this stuff, fighting for black human rights in South Africa. Yet Chinese were not supporting this. They were just, I think they were just enjoying being labeled as, I think, colored. I think they were labeled as, I don't know what they were labeled as. I don't know if it was colored or white. But they were labeled as this. It wasn't black, right? And they were enjoying the fruits of what it means to be colored in South Africa. And then when segregation was, or apartheid was just destroyed, it was gone. It was, you know, then you have Chinese groups coming out saying, we want to be labeled as black in South Africa. And it's like, but you didn't want to be black when the blacks were fighting for this, you know, right to be equal to whites. But now that whites have been run out, it's like, oh, now I want to be black. You know, so it kind of, I think sometimes they don't recognize it until it hits them, until it happens to them. They don't care. They don't want to be a part of it until it happens to them and they experience this form of racism personally. No, it's not limited to blacks. Like, it's well known that there's a hierarchy. It's like, you know, you could argue if it's white people or Chinese people at the top when you're in China. You know, Chinese people say it's white people at the top when something happens to them. And then it's Han, right? But when you really think about it, what is it really? It's basically, there's a hierarchy. It's maybe it's Asians, whites, or whites and Chinese, or Chinese whites. Then it's maybe blacks. Then Southeast Asians and Indians. So Indians get the brunt of a lot of stuff. Like, they probably get it worse than black people. Like, they got a word that they call Indians called asan, which means like dumb person or something like that, or idiot. So Indians get it a lot Like I had Chinese people say, "Oh, I don't like Indians." I'm like, "Why?" "Oh, they smell. Oh, they're stupid. Oh, they're dirty. They wipe your butt with their right hand and shake your hand with the left hand, and all this stuff." And I'm like, that's not entirely true for every Indian in India. Like you ever been to India before? It's like, no, I have not been to India, but I know they got a dirty river called the Ganges River. And I'm just like, you don't know India till you go there, till you meet an Indian person and you speak with them, and you understand their culture. You can't just take stuff that you heard and then make it into this big ball of ignorance. And that's what happens a lot uh, in China. And they do it to black people too. Like when they talking to white people, they say some craziness about like black folks. I don't like blacks. Well, have you met a black person? No, I haven't, but I just don't like them. And it's something that you got to get over, because there's some good stuff about China. Like if you just like forgo the ignorance part of it, China can be a very interesting and fun place to be. Most people are just great. I could say most people are great, but they have their reservations about certain types of people. And I think it needs to change. There needs to be an education to some people. And I'm not talking about education like academic education. I'm talking about like education in terms of like at least street knowledge, like just knowing stuff. Like you should know that there are black people in America. You got these master's degree students that still have these dumb notions about black people. You got people that go abroad that come back more stupid than before. And some problems you got to deal. You just got to deal with it. You know what I mean? I never really thought about dating Asian women in the U.S. because I knew that they were basically kind of bananas. You can tell when I went to university, they wasn't really trying to see like dating. I'm talking about Japanese, Chinese, Koreans. Rarely would they be dating a black guy. You know, it would be mostly like basically white dudes. I remember I was in SUNY Purchase. This is kind of like a X-rated story where I was chilling with this dude, and he was a white dude. He was telling me, "Yo, I just ran a train on this Asian woman from Taiwan, on this Taiwanese girl, and like me and four of my boys ran a train on her." And I was like, "Damn," And I knew the girl, I knew the girl, and she was just basically like white worship. She was like white worshiping, a white worship kind of girl. She didn't care about the reputation that she had or the reputation that was floating around about her. She just thought that white was right. So I didn't feel anything of it because I was like, that's just the way it is in America. Asian women are kind of like bananas. White on the inside, yellow on the outside. And I was never really that attracted to them. I was just like, Asian girl's an Asian girl. Some of them are pretty. You know, that's it. It was not something that I really thought about. In China, when I got here, I still wasn't really that interested in Asian women. I was just interested in the culture. Um, I guess it was just like an added bonus that, yeah, they have women here or whatever. And then as you stay longer, you kind of, because there are only Asian girls here, you're like, okay, I think Asian women are attractive because I used to think the big booty black girls were attractive, big booty white girls. And after that, after I got here, it slowly changed to like, oh yeah, I like Asian girls too. And I guess when I would try to get a date, there would be problems, like like oh, I used to use these data apps, and they would put a post, yeah, I want this type of dude, and I would answer, and the first question was like, are you white? And then when I didn't say, if I said no, I'm not white, then they wouldn't answer me. You had a lot of girls back in the days that would just talk stuff about me in front of like in the back room. There was this one time when I met this girl at a gym. Like we were all together, me and my friends, like four of us or whatever. We were four Americans or whatever. And I saw this Asian girl at the gym, and I was just talking to her. She was the friend of my friend. And I was like, hey, how you doing? Nothing, just nothing to try to hit on her or anything. She's like, oh, hey, how you doing, right? So she came to see this white dude. He brings her back to the apartment. We all go. And he brings her in the room. Like, she wants to stay in the room. She doesn't even want to come out. So he's like, yo, what's the problem? Like, he's not bringing her home. He's probably bringing her home to have sex with her, but we're not. We're just hanging around, And she's like, I don't feel comfortable with that black guy there. I hate black people. Have you ever met one? No, but I hate them all. And he kicked her out after that. But it was just like, where did this animosity come from? Because I was so nice to her. I wasn't trying to hit on her or anything or whatever. There was another one where I'm going out with this. I tried to hit on this Chinese girl at the club. She was working there, and she wouldn't give me the time of day. She's like, no, no, I don't like you. So I was dating. Yeah, I wasn't dating. Sorry, I was trying to date her. She wouldn't give me the type of day. She told my friend, yeah, I don't like black dudes. He went and dated her right after I tried. So then he went and had a try. She gave him the type of day. She also gave my other friend the type of day. He was white. So one of the guys went and got her pregnant, and it was just like, okay, he got her pregnant, and then he was like, get rid of it. Get rid of the kid. And he already had a girlfriend, so he brought her to the house, and she was like, I'm not getting rid of it. I want to have the kid. And he had to almost force feed her the pill, whatever, that gets rid of the child. I was like, it's so horrible what he's doing, but, this is the path that she chose. And she had even brought her mother, and she was sitting in a chair for like 3 days. And he was there with his girlfriend, and they were just like she was trying to kind of being ridiculed. And she was just sitting there, because I remember, because I was there, and I went there. I was like, damn, that wouldn't happen with me. That's what I was like. That's what I said. That's what I was thinking. I was like, it wouldn't happen with me. I wouldn't have treated you like that, because I actually really liked you, and I was also single at the time. I was single. I wasn't dating anybody, so I would have liked to be with you, and I would have treated you good. I wouldn't have got you pregnant, that's for sure. And he basically had to force feed her these pills so she could get rid of the child. In front of his girlfriend. And then she threatened to cut her wrist. Like, she was trying to cut her wrist. I think she was looking for a meal ticket or whatever. I don't know. But after that, then he just kicked her out. And that's it. I never seen her again. I was just like, yo, that's what it is. It is what it is. But nowadays, it's a little bit easier to date, like, Chinese women. At least in China, it's easier to date them. I didn't have problems. Like after like 2008, 2007, I didn't really have problems dating Chinese women. Like a lot of them are becoming more open minded. You still have this stupid ignorant shit about black this, black that. You still have that. Like if I were to talk to 10 Chinese women, maybe one of them would give me the type of day, as opposed to like a white folks. Maybe you got 4 out of 10, like this. So it's still like more difficult, but it's easier than dating in America. Like with these women now, I can see how people are doing the MGTOW movement with men going their own way. I got friends here in China that are MGTOW, which means men going their own way, where they just like they have just put off women and just decided just to live their life. So dating Asian women, I would say, or Chinese women at least, is easier. It's harder for black people than whites in China, uh, but it's easier than living in America. It's easier than that. You still will have uh, many women who are interested in you. One thing that I found while being black in China, this is kind of X-rated, sorry, but I gotta tell you this. I don't know if you want to call it good or bad or not, is that many Chinese women see you as just something to play around with, not to bring home to their parents. It's just experimenting, and because they think that, oh, blacks have big ones, right? Or foreigners have big ones, but blacks have even bigger ones. So they have this thing in their mind about that, and they might want to experiment with you, but not want to go further than that. I had like a Shanghai woman. I remember this a while ago where me and her, we had a sexual relationship, and then she says to me, "Can you hook me up with a boyfriend, a white boyfriend? Because I want to get married and stuff." And I'm like, "But what about me? Like, don't you see me here? Look, hello." She's like, "Oh, no, no, no. Black guys are just good at sex. I want someone to marry and that I can date and stuff like that. White guys, the children come out better looking." So she had all this shit in her head, and I was just like, just enjoy it. Just have sex and that's it. I don't care if she want to be dumb and she want to have these dumb freaking ideas, then let her have that. So that's the thing that I had to deal with that. No, they were not. The first time when Jenny announced to her parents that she wanted to marry me, her father was up in arms. He just like, "What have you done? Like, you've sullied the family line. You've diluted us. What are you doing? We're not gonna buy you a house because you're dating a foreigner and he's black." So the father did. He just really detests me, basically. Um, but the mother is very more accepting of me. They both don't like foreigners in general, but the mother can accept me, because the daughter loves me. But the father, he doesn't like me at all. He frequently calls me like nigger and this kind of thing. Of course, when I'm not there, my wife tells me all of these things. So it's just like you just deal with it. You try to prove them wrong. Like all her wife's friends got houses and stuff, and we don't got a house. So that happens too. Like because I don't have a house, because there's no support from my family. Because I told you about my family's. I don't know my family. I'm just a lone wolf. I'm a lone guy. And her wife, sorry, her parents refuse to support us in any financial way. And I don't look for that. It's just that it's in the Chinese culture, and I feel slighted because of that, because it's in Chinese culture for them to support the family when they get married, for them to like put a dowry aside for the daughter. and they did not do that with me. They're just like, you married a foreigner, you married a black guy, we're not gonna support you. You make it on your own, you know. And we got grandchildren, and the father, he likes to show our children off, like in the first days that my daughter or my son goes there. The first day he's kind of happy, and then after the first day he's like, go away, go back home. Because it's about face. It's like, look, I got grandchildren, and then that's it. It doesn't really have to do with them being black, I guess. Like, I guess he does think that his blood is polluted, but it has more to do with him being like a kind of selfish type of person. Like, he just wants his life, and we just gotta like try to work it out on our own. Like, so we just both like just denounced our parents, and we're just like, we are doing the stuff on our own. No one's gonna help us. No one wants to help us. We're starting all over again. Okay, so we are the beginning of our family. Forget the grandparents or whatever. They're not going to be around to support us, like emotionally, mentally, or whatever. We got to do the stuff on our own, and however much success we have or failures we have, it's on us. Because they do not basically kind of, my mother-in-law actually did like babysit, or she was the caretaker for our children for like 5 years. So she did do her part. She did what she could, but the father, no support at all, nothing. So yeah, that's how that went. Like I said, it's just propaganda. We have two completely different cultures. They are more introverted, like in terms of most of the time, and we're more extroverted. We were forced to be extroverted because of slavery, because we were so introverted when we were slaves, right? We were afraid to come out of our shell because we get hanged or killed or whatever. And then when we got more rights, we became more strong-minded, strong-willed, and now it's instilled in us. Like, we don't want this happening again to us, So we take that with us in many situations. It's like it's something, a trait that's carried on from one black person to another. It's just like we will not. This will not happen to us again. We are. We will say what we feel. We will. Uh, we are kind of living off the. We wear our heart on the sleeve, as opposed to Asians. They don't do that. Their family is more closely knitted. Black's family unit is not closely knitted because of what happened in the 1960s, what happened with crack cocaine, with the CIA pushing that shit inside our communities. We've become disjointed from what it means to be a family. And Asians are not like that. They've stuck together. Plus, in terms of China, they have their own country. They have a culture to look back on. Black Americans, we have America. We don't have a country to look back on. They say most of us came from Ghana. Most of the blacks came from Ghana, right? Um, but do we know that for sure? We have no history of who we are, and with the Chinese, they don't respect that we don't have a history of who we are, that we don't have really our own country. We're just part of this dark continent to them. So, that creates disdain. It creates something like a hierarchy. Like, we know who we are. Do you know who you are? Well, I got advice for black men. It's just like no catcalling. Don't be aggressive. You can't just go just because a Chinese woman, at least for China, I don't know about the others. Just if a Chinese woman gives you her number or Weixin or WeChat, it doesn't mean that she wants to date you. It just means she gave you her WeChat. There's nothing special about that. Try to change her perception of what black people are. Try to teach her about your culture. Be a gentleman. Don't show any of that that aggressiveness that we often show sometimes. Not all of us, but many of us do. When someone pisses you off, just don't be aggressive. Like, I know it seems like I'm copping out or like this, but when you come to China, you are a representative of, you are an ambassador for all black people. So whatever happens that you do, whatever you say, however you conduct yourself, they base your actions and they will put the whole black race on you. So if you cheated a Chinese girl, she's gonna be like, all black people are like this. With white folks, she won't do that in general, unless she knows, oh, this is a French guy. Okay, then all French guys are like this. If a French guy slights her, then she won't be dating French guys. Then she'll move to German guys. Then if German guys don't treat her good, then she'll move to American guys. And then if American guys don't treat her good, then she'll move to Canadian guys. White guys. But as black people, whether you come from Germany or you are from America or you are from France, it doesn't mean anything to her. It means just the color of your skin. That's all it is. So if you do something bad to her, it's not a black German did this to me, a French German did this to me, and a French black person did this to me, an American black person did this to me. It's just a black person did this to me. So I will treat all other black people accordingly. So you have to understand that you are the ambassador. And this is your responsibility. Just like when you become a celebrity, if someone becomes a celebrity, it's not their choice if they are a role model. They just are. Like a guy like Justin Bieber, like he didn't want to be a role model. He was going crazy, doing all types of shit because he didn't want to do that. But when you put yourself in these situations, you are a role model no matter what. Like you are forced to be it. It's not your choice if you want to be role model or not. So I look at my life here accordingly to like that. I know a lot of my videos I say if someone calls me a nigga, I'm gonna punch them in the face. No, I wouldn't do that. I'll just tell them a thing or two about a thing or two. I won't become violent because then all black people are violent, and that's not a good thing for black people coming to Asia. I want black people to come to Asia, and I want the reputation to be good. So I have to play my part. So I play my part. That's what I do.